Leslie Gable is going to come up in a few minutes and also talk to you about One Voice and kind of the genius behind it, because it really is a true collaboration in our community. So I'm going to defer that to her. Just like to welcome a few of our key community leaders, Freeholder John King, Prosecutor Soriano, from Somerset County, Prosecutor Kearns from Hunterdon County, Sheriff Fred Brown, Assemblywoman Donna Simon, and I don't see Kip Bateman, Senator Bateman. Is Senator Bateman here yet? No? Okay, I know he was supposed to come as well. So please join me in welcoming all our community leaders for being here. And just one more thing we want to talk about is Hunterdon Prevention Resources really does collaborate with a lot of community groups. And One Voice, and again, Leslie's going to speak to that, is all about collaboration. And we just want to point something out to you, because we're working on kind of rebranding ourselves, because as we've grown over the years, we look a little schizophrenic. And that a lot of people don't know that the Safe Communities Coalition is part of Hunterdon Prevention Resources. A lot of people don't know what the Family Success Center is. We all have different logos. So we're that's our summer goal, is to help people figure out that we all are one agency. So to that, we have in your thing, don't have to pull it out now, it's what we call our divisions chart of all the work we do. And I think it was a good exercise from all our staff, because I think we even forget sometimes how much we do. And we are really driven by meeting the needs in this community and working with groups. So I just want to pull your attention to that and let you know that in the fall we hope to have all our rebranding done, and we'll share that with you then. So also just housekeeping, please turn your cell phones off if you need to use them. It'd be really great if you could step out. I think you know where the restrooms are, just right out this hall and to the right there. And thank you for coming, and I'm going to introduce Leslie Gable. Where is she? There she is, Leslie.
Good morning. I have to tell you, I'm so excited that you're all here today. And I want to take a moment just to explain a little bit about One Voice. The folders you have in front of you will give you a little bit more information behind it, as well as a way to register about receiving information about One Voice. But just to go back a few years ago, the prosecutor and I were speaking, and he said, you know, we really need to think about how we can engage faith leaders. And he will tell you, I practically jumped out of my chair and I'm like, I'm in, what is it? What's your idea? And we weren't sure. We just knew that we needed to bring the leaders together. And so instead of me explaining what it is, we have a quick video here through our faith leaders' eyes and our prosecutor to tell you a little bit how One Voice started.
Prosecutor has a great deal to gain when they involve the faith-based community. Being the head law enforcement officer in my county, I can take the position that my role is to put the bad guys in prison, and that's it. Throw away the key, as some people might say. But really, my role, I think, as the chief law enforcement officer, is to preserve the quality of life here in our county. And one of the best ways to do that is to look at tackling the problem of crime, tackling the problem of substance abuse, tackling the social ills on multiple fronts. And one important front is the faith-based community. They have an ability to reach out to their congregations in a way that we can't.
As a leader in this community, it's important for me to be in touch with the people that I serve. It's important for me to be able to journey with them. And the only way I can do that is if I know some of the problems and some of the day-to-day concerns that they face. With this connection to the prosecutor's office, I'm able to take some of that information and present it to the people in a way that we can show them that we are one on this journey, and that we have tools to help them if they want to come forward. We have tools to be able to provide them with assistance, and they don't journey alone.
The benefits of One Voice are the ability to communicate a particular message or to address an issue in a way that we can do it community-wide very, very quickly, without much cost, either financially or otherwise. We can communicate a message on a Saturday or a Sunday or a Friday, depending on your religious Sabbath, to a whole number of concerned people, really, as I said, very quickly and very efficiently.
I think that one of the things that is most compelling about joining forces with others is that we can't solve all of our problems on our own. As a matter of fact, people from St. Magdalene's live next door to people, and they go to school with each other, and they work with each other from all different places. And the more that we realize that we have more in common than what divides us, the more strength we have. And I think that I can be a catalyst to help people to recognize that.
But here's what One Voice is. It's a way that we look at those things that face our community. How are we going to be able to reach people that we normally don't reach? And we have actually a steering committee, and I see some of our members here. If you wouldn't mind just standing up if you're on our steering committee for One Voice. Here we go. If we can give them a round of applause. And what we do is we meet each month, and we take a look at those things that are affecting the community. And the rule is it has to affect everyone in Hunterdon County before we work on anything. We will not just take something. And the reason why is we're looking across all different faiths and all different issues. Some of the things we worked on is prescription drugs. Last year we tackled suicide, and this year we're working on marijuana. At this time, I want to go ahead and introduce Prosecutor Kurtz.
I'm going to just address One Voice very briefly too. The beauty of One Voice is just that we have an opportunity as a community to speak on one issue at one time. So we take a certain faith weekend. Friday is the Muslims' day of worship, Saturday the Jewish day of worship, and Sunday the Christian. So we take a certain weekend, typically in the fall, and address an issue all at the same time with the same message. Now it may be delivered a little bit differently depending on what the faith tradition is and how they might allow the message to be communicated. For instance, some of the Christian denominations may invite somebody in to speak from the altar, or they may allow some in the Catholic after communion or through a bulletin, or just that, you know, they preach from the pulpit about the issues. So thank you for being part of this One Voice effort, and while the thrust of it is to engage the faith community, it also, One Voice allows for us to work with various civic groups too, the Rotaries, the Lions, groups such as that, and we ask them, when we're pushing this message out, we send them the message and ask them to share it as well. And today, the issue that we're talking about and we're going to push out in the fall is the issue and the concerns that we have with marijuana. And Dr. Sabet, who I'll introduce in a moment, is going to speak much more eloquently and more intelligently than I ever could about it. But I will tell you, you know, I got up this morning and I was watching Fox News, and you know how timely this issue is that we're dealing with this marijuana issue. Governor Christie made it very clear. I think it was last night he was interviewed, and he said if he were president, he would enforce the law on the federal level and prosecute marijuana marijuana distribution in these states that it's become legal, because the federal law federally it's still illegal. And you know, obviously that garnered a lot of attention. but what's fascinating about it is today's topic is called stoned truth, and I think that's what gets missed in from the media is the truth. You know, no one's dealing with the truth. I listened to even the questions that the reporter was asking the governor, and he said, "Would you really prevent people from enjoying marijuana in Colorado?" And notice the word enjoying. You know, that sound well. You know, you could easily have replaced enjoying with abusing. You know, and that's really what, you know, what we know about marijuana. I don't think there's any way to enjoy marijuana without abusing it. It's a dangerous drug. I think we have a wonderful ability as a society to look at what's going on in Colorado and to learn from that before other places make those same mistakes. But whatever the law is, whatever happens with regard to that, I think we have an opportunity here to educate our people, our kids, our parents about the dangers of marijuana. Because we might not be able, we have to be countercultural. We have to really stand up against these misnomers, these half-truths, the way the language is manipulated, and our kids are being convinced that marijuana, there's no harm and there's no problem. It's so dangerous, because I do think, and I'm not sure if Dr. Sabet's going to mention this, I do think there's truth, there's objective truth out there about the dangers of marijuana. When the other side speaks about marijuana, they use anecdotal evidence, they compare it to other things, as opposed to saying, what is this? And I think that we have some objective data to say it's a dangerous drug, and it will be harmful to our kids. Well, I don't think one could say it causes mental illness. It certainly can lend itself to precipitate one that is predisposed to psychosis or some type of mental illness. And I think we owe it to the people that sit in the pews of your congregation, that we deal with on a law enforcement basis, to our constituents, to our citizens, to let them know that it is dangerous, because all the other information coming out is it's harmless, and people are thinking about marijuana from the Woodstock days. It's a completely different drug. So we have an opportunity here today, and you all can be ambassadors of this and start, you know, correcting and bringing the objective truth out about this, and really being a force, a counter force to what's going on, unfortunately, nationally, and probably internationally. We think this is such an opportunity, and we're so grateful that you're here. But this wouldn't be possible without the Safe Communities Coalition, with HPR and all the great work that they do. And so we're so grateful for them, and we're so grateful. If I asked Dr. Sabet to be here, he wouldn't be here. But because Leslie invited him, he's here. And what a treasure, what a gift that we have this person that really is an expert in this field and has dedicated. And it's probably a thankless job in many ways, because he is going against culture. And but I think, you know, when you have President Obama's drug czar coming out and saying this is dangerous, I think we need to stop and we need to listen to that. So, Dr. Sabet, if you'll come up, thank you.
Just for the record, I would not have said no to Tony. We don't want to. Nobody wants to say no to him. No, really, I want to thank HPR and One Voice. I want to thank Jerry for inviting me, Leslie also for inviting me, and I can never say no to the dynamic duo of Jerry and Leslie. Can we just give them a round of applause for the work for the last few, more than a decade that they've been doing in the community that I've known them for. It's really a pleasure to be with you today, and I'm not here to deliver a boring scientific speech about marijuana, although I'm talking the science. I'm really here because, and I'm really honored to be here to talk about this issue. I think in a way that I hope you can bring back to your congregation, your kids, your communities. I hope you remember a few nuggets that I'm going to tell you today, and I ask you to share them when you're at the 4th of July barbecue with your neighbors. Those things are really, really important. Don't underestimate that power of discussion. And it's really actually fitting that a interfaith-based coalition has invited me here today, because I just got back. I did an event yesterday just for the day in Montana. I got back around 1 a.m. and then luckily I only live 20 minutes from here now, so I'm a resident in New Jersey, which is wonderful. And then this afternoon I'm actually heading to Israel, which is how interesting. And as a member of the Baha'i faith, which very much participates in these sorts of issues of interfaith, we're going to be visiting actually the holy places of all the world's major religions when we're there for the week. So and I only really go there once a decade. So it's kind of what an interesting sort of we wouldn't call it karma, but depending on your faith background, you call it something. That I'm here today addressing this group a few hours before I have to run over to pick up my wife and run to JFK. So it is a pleasure to be here, and it's a pleasure to talk about what I think is almost the elephant in the room. Find me the person advocating to spread OxyContin and heroin. Right? Find me the person advocating for cocaine legalization. They're not out there anymore. Those issues, as difficult as they are, and I talk about all the issues, but today I'm talking about marijuana. For some reason, marijuana has become more difficult to talk about. And I think a lot of that is that as Americans, and I talk about this in my book, we have a tendency to, first of all, generalize our experience with everybody else, right? We say, well, I know somebody who did it and they were fine, and so then therefore everyone's going to be okay, right? Or we bring, frankly, a lot of baggage to this discussion, because absolutely marijuana has been associated with the culture wars, right? So, it was kind of this reefer madness, right, 100 years ago. And then, so now when a lot of Americans hear about the harms of marijuana from the science, they don't believe it, because they think it's reefer madness all over again, or they think it's part of some, please welcome. They think it's part of some vast conspiracy to, some government control. And so it's hard to have sort of just a plain conversation about the science on this, because people bring in all kinds of biases. And so, today I'm gonna talk about some of the science, but what's unfortunate is that the science isn't really getting out there. Right? Because, do we think that the average American is reading the Annals of the American Medical Association, near their bedside, right? Or the average kid who wants to know about marijuana, do they go look up the PubMed search Medline on the National Institutes of Health, or do they Google or Instagram it and find that the top 30 Twitter users, 75% of them tweet about marijuana in a positive way on a regular basis, right? Or do they YouTube it and find literally 29,000 videos, if you did it right now, on how to extract 98% THC with a butane hash method that I'm going to talk about. So unfortunately, that's where we're getting a lot of kids are getting the information from. And, this is why really I helped to start this organization, SAM, a couple of years ago, because I was working in the White House for the third time, and this issue knows no party line. I was noticing that the discussion in this country was becoming increasingly unscientific and also increasingly fractured, and kind of like our politics, actually, where it was one of two sides you had to choose. You either want to lock people up or you want to legalize. Right? And so I looked at that and I thought, there's a lot of things that we can do that don't fall neatly into those two categories. And when I talked to law enforcement, even law enforcement didn't want to lock people up for low-level amounts of marijuana, most of them. And we have some law enforcement in here, and I invite you to raise your hand if you remember the last time you arrested somebody whose only crime was smoking a joint, right? So that no one's raising their hand. Yesterday I spoke in front of the chiefs of police. They didn't raise their hand either. But there's a perception that, our prisons are full of people with marijuana. And then on the other side, there was this sort of shiny new idea of legalization. And this was going to be something that was going to get rid of the drug cartels and gangs in one full swoop, help our education system with tax revenue, and cure cancer all at once. Isn't that amazing? It's incredible. Sign me up for whatever that is. It's amazing. Anyway, I looked at those two things and I thought, this is the wrong way. And so I said to myself, how can we try and change this? We don't have the millions of dollars that the other side does. So what can I do? And so I thought to myself, I need to find the most liberal person I know and the most conservative person I know.